What is it like to run a landlord business?
Hello, my name is Nelson Gray, and this is the Small Business Solutions Podcast, the show where we skip the high level inspiration and get into the actual solutions straight from people running the business. Now, let's answer that opening question.
I'm here with Elisee today, and Elisee, can you tell me a little about your elevator pitch for the company and what you do?
Yes, my name is Elise Ilunga, and I'm a landlord and investor at the same time. So, meaning on some of my properties, I have a property manager managing for me, and on some, I manage by myself. So that's a little bit about what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you decide to get into being a landlord?
Well, well, I wanted at first. I wanted to be an investor, but from the mentor that I had early on when I got started, they told me that it's better for me to be a landlord at least for the beginning because I can save money and I can learn a lot about the business. So that was the best way to learn about the business, about what the property managers do. So by knowing that I can know more about how to manage them and how to manage a business. So that's how I got started being a landlord, yes.
Okay. And did you have any experience in the industry before this, or
Zero,
was that
none.
just okay?
No, it wasn't.
So
I didn't have
you're
any experience. So that's the thing. I think the best way to get started is to learn everything, all the facet of the business, and then specialize into one thing. And the best way to learn everything, I think, is being a landlord because you're in the middle of it. You have to manage everything, every single contractor, and even do it yourself stuff. You can learn it because you can be there. You know, that was the best learning curve for me, or learning
yeah,
opportunity for
that
me. Let me just say it that way. Learning opportunity for me.
that makes sense. And how about what was your biggest surprise that you've encountered since? Because you've been doing all kinds of stuff of yourself and all kinds of things. What was your biggest surprise so far being a landlord?
So being a landlord, what a lot of people were concerned about, even me when I got started, is the how you gonna get phone calls in the middle of the night to come and fix toilets. So that was my worry, just like everybody's. But what I did not see coming was the paperwork that comes in with it. So and the amount of different field, different people, different type of businesses that you have to deal with and kind of understand what they do. So you have to deal with insurance, and you have to deal with other landlord, you have to deal with property managers, you have to deal with realtors, you have to deal with utility companies, you have to deal with contractors, and all that. They all look different. They all operate differently. They have different skills, different type of mentality. You have to deal with all of them. So, and then the paperwork that comes with it
Yeah.
requires a lot of organization to keep everything at the same time and keep up with deadlines and all that. Scheduling contractors. So I didn't expect the amount of requirement to details, attention to detail. I didn't expect that. So that's one thing. That's what comes to mind right now.
And how did you adapt to that? So you weren't expecting all the paperwork and such. How did you adapt to having to do all that?
But one thing that helped me was a book that I read about landlording by Brendan Turner, and explaining that you have to
Okay.
you have to keep physical folders dividing like everything per property, right? You have a big folder. Within that folder, you have other folders in there. That's a physical one, and I have a digital one where I file every, like, depending on what the paperwork is for. So I have a folder for insurance. I have a folder for repairs. I have a folder for bookkeeping. I have a folder for everything, and I try to keep it as much as possible in order, and taxes and all that. I try to keep it in order to help myself be in order. So make things easy for myself. So
Yeah,
That's how I
yeah,
manage that.
yeah. Okay. And then how about you? Yeah, you've told me about the misconceptions. How about anything that you enjoyed you didn't expect to happen being a landlord?
Something that I enjoy.
Because normally it's always like everyone's has like, oh, you're gonna have to get called late at night and you have to fix a toilet or stuff like that. Is there something that you instead of all the negatives, were there any positives that came out of it that you weren't expecting?
The good about land, like on some of my properties, I was a landlord on site, meaning it was a multi-family property, and I was occupying one side and then renting the rest. So the good thing is the tax breaks are better as a landlord because you occupy. It's
Okay.
almost like an occupying property, and then even the financing is different. So that's the good thing about being a landlord. That's one of I'm pretty sure there are a lot, but the one that comes in mind right now is the tax advantages. While you live in the property, you get to treat it. You get to treat it as an investment and as a primary home at the same time. So there's a lot of advantages in that. So even
So
repairs,
I
some of the
guess
repairs.
does it take like some stress away of like, oh, I don't have to pay rent to someone. It's more I get to live here and
Yes,
I don't
there's
have to figure
that.
out how I'm gonna have to pay them.
There's that. And then there's your mortgage. Like if you see that most, let's say duplex, usually the price of a duplex is very close to a price of a single family house within an area. So meaning because the price is the same, eventually the mortgage is gonna be the same. But as a landlord occupying one side, you get to split that mortgage with somebody else, while the person with a single family house is gonna have to take the whole thing by themselves. So that's one aspect of being a landlord or investor is to me, at least to me, that's what comes to mind. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them that if I see them think I can find more. So that's what I have
Oh,
for that.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how about who would be your ideal person as a renter? What are you looking for someone to rent from you?
First of all, I want someone who rent from me for the longest time. Forever is a great time,
Sure.
you know. Forever is a great time, and I want someone that pays the bills on time, someone that don't have to remind to pay the bills, and someone that will treat the property as their own, you know.
Okay.
And in a nutshell, that's it. That's mainly that. Someone that won't create more problems for other tenants for myself. You know, someone that will respect the property and keep it clean. So that's the ideal person.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think there's a couple ways to go about that answer. There's the, oh, I want this middle-aged person in life doing whatever. And then you're going at the angle of there's several of those different types of people that would fit a long-term like what you just said. So
Mhm.
that would be the core and then look for people that fit that core that could be in several different stages of life that would fit
Yeah.
that long-term renter.
The
Interesting.
ideal person is the person that can afford to buy a house but don't want the responsibility of owning a house. There are people like that out there. So they can afford it, they clearly have the money, but they just want somebody else to take care of all the repairs and all that things. They don't want to deal with that. Those are the ideal candidates because they can pay.
Interesting. I could see a retiree being like that, where
Yeah,
they don't want to be locked down in case things change in life,
exactly.
but at the same time, they have no plans on moving. And the older
Yeah.
you get, the less you plan on
Yes.
moving.
Yes. And then they can pay they have the means to pay the rent
True.
every month. So
Then
that's the ideal.
maybe they don't even have a job, and it's like, but they got the money coming in to pay it. So yeah, that's interesting.
Right. Right. And then
Okay.
retirees better because they're not very messy like young people where
True.
they have that desire to have a party every weekend. So and invite their friends over. So
True. Okay. How about marketing? Every business has to do marketing of some sort, and yours would be a little different. Like you have to find not landlords. You have to find renters. What's your angle? How do you find them to fill your empty apartment up?
funny thing is we've had a shortage of units in the US for the longest time.
Sure.
that I really didn't have on on the one property that I actually managed. Probably for the past for like straight 7 years or so, I've had to change tenants probably 3 times, and I never had to advertise once because it went through referral. So somebody a renter leaving and referring the friend, co-worker, family, or whatever to come and replace them. It happened over and over and over again. For 7 years, I never had to do that. By this past year, I had to do it. I went through. There's a company called Hemlane. They do they.
Okay.
It's a platform that does pretty much everything. They do bookkeeping, and it's like an assistant, almost an assistant to a landlord, where whatever you need to find them a contractor. They find you a contractor in your area. You want them to find you a realtor to fit a unit, to show a unit. They'll do that. They offer software for bookkeeping, and then they offer you booking being service pretty much, and they give you a report at the end of every month. So I went through them. So I created a listing through them, and then they help me with the showings, scheduling all the showings, and even advertising my listing to all the major websites like Zillow, apartment.com, and all that. So they really helped me a lot. They made my life way easier. So I was able to do it while living in a different state. So yeah,
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Finding the right partners and vendors to work with really eases your life. And
yeah.
the
It
opposite
does.
can be true as well.
Yes, it does.
I've seen that for people. How about if you could go back to the day you started, is there anything in particular you would do different now that you've had got experienced up to this point through all your
What I
experiences?
do differently?
Yeah, what would you do differently if you had to start over?
If I had to start over, I'll probably move out of state earlier, like earlier than I did, because I
Okay.
used to live in Washington, and Washington got really, really expensive. And because it got expensive, it was hard to find deals. So I started buying outside instead of moving myself outside. So while you're buying out from one state and now living in that state, the financing is more expensive.
Oh,
So
interesting.
and then I wasn't planning on moving. I decided to move. I decided to move too late, I think. So I would have moved earlier than I actually did, just to be able to recapture that easy financing, low down payment. So early enough. That's what I've done differently.
Okay, that makes sense. So you would, yeah, now that you know those type of things, you would move out sooner. How about when you have to deal with the paperwork and you have to deal with hard tenants, and when things are getting tough, what keeps you motivated to keep pushing through it?
What keeps that's a good that's a
Because I'm
that's a
sure you hit a
that's
wall
a
at some point.
like it's well, for me personally, is I remember the good times, right? I remember the upside
Okay.
I've had, all the good time that I've had landlording, because when the highs are high, when the highs are there, they're really high. They're really good. Life is good. Life, like, you just get an email saying that the rent was paid and all. It's really good. So I
Sure.
remind myself of all the good times, and they have me go through bad times, because sometimes the bad times are really bad. They're really, really bad. They're stressful and all that. So myself, I think about all the good things. Like, I remember that this has been good for a long time. So it helps me go through the
Yeah.
bad ones, and it makes them a little easier to deal with. So that's mainly what I do.
Okay. And then um we always hear that phrase like be your own boss, but at the same time your customers are your boss. How would you say your renters are your boss? Because I mean, obviously, our first thought is like the toilet's broken. Is there any other way that the renters are your boss, where you have to keep them happy?
Yes, because Especially like, let's say when you have a good tenant is peace of mind in so many ways. And then you realize that when they decide to move out, life happens, they move on, the family get larger, they want to move to the next one, then you realize how you had it good, you know? So when you know that the cheapest or the easiest thing to do to have is to have a tenant renew their lease. You know, because if they decide at the end of it, a lease to not break the lease, but move out, the expenses that you're gonna have to occur, like probably you're looking at probably a month just trying to fix the property. Meaning in that month you have the opportunity cost that there won't be any rent coming in that month, but you don't have money coming in, but you're gonna have to have money goes out to fix whatever is broken, replace the carpet, repaint. And then that's the first month. That one is guaranteed that you're gonna lose that. And then if you do your work really good and really fast, within a month now you're ready to start advertising. Probably it might take you a month or two if you're lucky. So that's 3 months where you don't have rent coming in, but you have rent going out. I mean, you have money going out to fix stuff. So what if the tenant renews, then all that money, that 3 months plus turnover money, you don't have to spend that. So keeping your tenants happy is the best thing that you should, you know, and try to keep them happy. Be like when they ask for something to be fixed and be on it. So that's what I try to do. Because somehow
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of the interview with Elisee. Come back for part 2, where we're going to dig into the different software solutions and methods that he uses in order to manage all his different properties. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and follow me. It helps a lot for a new channel like mine starting out. Now, go solve problems, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.